Happiness cannot be pursued. You do not find happiness, happiness finds you. It is not an end in itself, but a byproduct of other activities, often arriving when it is least expected. Our minds are analogous to hedonic treadmills, and what that means is that once one desire is sated, it'll be quickly replaced by another desire. So if you think that you'll be happy when you save up and buy a Maserati, what'll happen is for about 6 to 18 months after that, you'll be driving around your Maserati, and then one day somebody will go by in a Ferrari, right? And your mind will say, dang, I should have bought the Ferrari. That'll make me happy. So you save up and you save up and you save up, and you buy a Ferrari and you drive it off the lot, and you're really happy for 6 to 18 months. And then somebody drives by in a Lamborghini, and then you say, dang, I should have bought the Lamborghini. So that's what a hedonic treadmill is. The desire is actually more important than what is desired. There's a fascinating study called Accident Victims and Lottery Winners. And in this study, they calculated the happiness of people before accidents and before they won the lottery, and then they monitored them. And what they found was that about 18 months after people suffered from disfigurement or terrible things in car accidents, or if they had won the lottery, they were back to their original range of happiness. Your mind is a really interesting thing because it overestimates the things that will make you happy, and it underestimates your resilience. The founder of positive psychology, Martin Seligman at the University of Pennsylvania, found that everybody has a range of happiness, and there are tools that will keep you at the high end of that range and tools that will keep you at the low end of your range. Today what we're going to do is look at the tools that will keep us at the high end of our happiness ranges. I have a private practice as a psychotherapist, and then I've also been touring teaching mindfulness and yoga to people all over the United States. And what I tell both my clients and my students is, I don't heal anyone, I don't fix anyone, and I don't cure anyone. I share tools, and that's what I'm going to do today. I've found a bunch of tools that keep people at the high end of their happiness ranges, and what I'd like you to do is think of this video as a dressing room. So you're going to try on a couple of different ideas, try and get a new perspective into the way you think about happiness, and if any of these tools fit, you're free to keep them and then just leave the others behind. So I'd like to begin by doing a brief meditation, which is just 2 minutes, and what we're going to do is just notice things that come up. So hopefully you're seated, and what we like to do first is what I call create the frame. So you're going to have your spine as erect as possible, your chin level, gravity gently tugs the flesh off of your cheekbones, your forehead's relaxed, your shoulders are directly over your hips. You can have your hands up or down, it doesn't matter. We close the eyes, and all we're going to do is sit for 2 minutes and see what happens. gently guide our attention back into the room. Meditation is probably the most difficult thing that you'll ever attempt. When people start to meditate, the thought comes in, oh, I won't be able to do this because I think too much. And then you start to talk about your mundane things inside your head, like, I wonder who's calling or texting me now that I've had my phone off for 3 seconds. The phrase that I really like is, the rain isn't personal, but we take it personally, right? And when you're on the highway, George Carlin famously said there are 2 types of drivers. There are lunatics and idiots. The lunatics are the people behind you who want to go faster, and the idiots are people in front of you who are going too slow. If I had a machine that could look into the brains of the 50 or 75 people when I teach this class, you would find that out of the infinite number of ideas that people can have, our lives are fairly constrained. I mean, we have 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts every day, and the statistics I heard were that 90 to 95% of them are the same as yesterday. So I'm going to show you throughout this video that most of our thoughts are redundant and negative. There's a beautiful phrase that you've probably heard, and it goes like this: if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. Einstein said it a little bit more eloquently when he said that the level of consciousness that created the problem will be unable to fix it. My favorite way of saying it is by Marshall McLuhan, who said, I don't know who discovered water, but I doubt it was a fish. We all live in a paradigm. We see the world through our own particular perspectives. And one of the most interesting things from quantum physics is a theoretical experiment called Schrodinger's cat, which basically proves that your way of seeing things influences the way they actually are in the world. An easier way of saying that is the glass is either half empty or half full. What we're trying to do in this video is get some insight into how our minds operate. We're going to look at our thoughts, feelings, and actions, the things that comprise our way of being in the world. And we're going to look at them as tools that we learned as children to get our needs met. And the phrase that I like when I talk about this is, adults are just children with better excuses. So we develop these tools to survive our childhoods, right? And what I like to do if I teach this class is have everybody stand up and give themselves a big round of applause. Say congratulations. You can congratulate yourselves because you survived your childhood. And I know that you survived your childhood because you're here, right? The problem is that the tools that we develop to survive our childhoods might be hindering us from showing up authentically in our relationships today. So we're going to get some insights into the ways that we are prejudiced, or the ways that we're reactive, or anything that might be skewing our perception of what's going on. The way I like to think of it is that the brain is the hardware and the mind is the software. And I also sometimes make the joke, the mind is a terrible thing to taste, which is exactly what you probably experienced when we tried that 2-minute meditation. Let's get some insight into how our minds were built. The first thing I'd like to do is look at 3 characteristics of our mind that make meditation so challenging. And the first reason that meditation is so challenging is because one of the characteristics of the mind is that you cannot tell it what not to think. Please sit up as you did before, and we'll just create the posture to start meditating. Shoulders are over the hips, the spine is erect, the chin is level, gravity gently pulls flesh off the cheekbones, the forehead is relaxed, and we close the eyes. And for the next 3 minutes, whatever you do, Don't imagine a white elephant. Okay, well, you don't need 3 minutes. The way the mind negates things is to put them in and take them out. So if I tell you not to think of a white elephant, the only way your mind is able to do that is to put it in and then take it out. This is why all psychotherapists would be out of business if we could tell people what not to think. If anybody could walk up to you and say, don't think about that terrible car accident you were in, or don't think about the time that you fell off the tree and broke your arm, right? Secondly, there are literally an infinite number of things that you are incapable of imagining. And what Wittgenstein said is that we use placeholders to hold places for them. So if I tell you to imagine infinity, what you might do is close your eyes and then maybe you'll think of the solar system or just the sky, but you can't imagine infinity. There are literally infinite things that you don't know that you don't know. The second reason that meditation is so challenging is because we get our sense of self, our personal identity, through our thoughts. Descartes' famous cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, is one of the underlying tenets of Western civilization. So we're kind of addicted to that hamster wheel in the head that tells us who we are. I am Ira, I am tall, I am sitting, I am this, I am that. I'd like you to try on this concept and see how this feels to you. Think about language creating reality. If you can't say it, if you can't put it into words, then it doesn't exist. Just think about that for a moment, and then think about the way we language ourselves and our action. What I was taught was that in Sanskrit, all the original words were verbs. So it wasn't I'm doing something, it's this action is being done, right? But in English, we do the exact opposite. The am in our sentences sounds like an equation. So it's like, I am permanently a doctor. I am angry. I am a father. The English language reifies. It makes things solid. We're constantly creating personal identity through our thought. In our culture, we think about ourselves, therefore we exist. But really, the essence of life is prana, is our air, the energy. I mean, actually, it would be much more precise to say, I breathe, therefore I am, than I think, therefore I am. The second reason that meditation is so difficult is because we get our personal identity through our thoughts, and actually, we're all kind of addicted to who we are. The third reason that meditation is extremely difficult is because our minds have a negativity bias. Most of our thoughts, as I said before, are redundant, and I'm going to show you now that, I'm sorry to say, most of them are negative. The reason that most of our thoughts are negative, I believe, is because in our culture, we raise children the same way we tame pets. I know that's a little strong, but just think about it for a second. Most of our interactions with adults for the first 18 years of our lives are some form of behavior modification. Unfortunately, a lot of times we do this through negative languaging. We're telling them what not to do. Don't stick your tongue in the socket. Don't jab your sister with a fork. Don't run out into traffic, right? And when people come into my office as a psychotherapist and they have this thing called negative self-talk, right? Not good enough. Oh yeah, I made vice president of the company, but I'll only be happy when I'm president. That not good enough feeling. I always ask them, where did you get that negative self-talk? Were you born with that? Because for me, it's the languaging that makes us productive members of society by telling us what not to do that comes back 35, 40 years later as low self-esteem, negative self-talk, or again, what Melanie Klein called not good enough. But there's a fourth problem too. The mind has a mind of its own. We're all on autopilot most of the time, and what we need to do is learn to cultivate non-reactivities, take ourselves off of that autopilot, and learn how to show up authentically in the present moment. The brain is the hardware, the mind is the software, and these ancient tools of meditation and yoga were developed to reboot the hard drive so that we can start fresh and get some insight into whatever bugs are corrupting our operating systems. But telling someone to release their thoughts or disidentify with that hamster wheel, to take themselves off of autopilot, is like telling someone to sneeze or sleep, right? Again, you cannot tell the mind what not to think, and there's no on or off switch. What we have to do in order to get you to just release or disidentify for 2 or 3 seconds is we have to trick the mind into releasing the thinking apparatus. F. Scott Fitzgerald said, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold 2 opposite ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function." So I can't tell you what not to think, and I can't tell you to flick this off switch and shut off your mind. What we're going to do is think of this meditation the same way we see that rabbit duck image. The mind can't hold the rabbit and the duck at the same time. You can get it to flicker very fast, but if I tell you don't see the duck, don't see the duck, don't see the duck, your mind's going to see the duck. So what I can do is just gently guide your attention towards something else. And what we're going to do in this first meditation is gently guide your attention back to your breath. Gently guide your attention to long, deep, fluid inhalations, and gently guide your attention to long, deep, fluid exhalations. So please create the physical frame. Your shoulders are directly over your hips. The chin level, gravity gently tugs the flesh off of the cheekbones. Relax any tension from the forehead. Your hands can be either down softly on your knees or facing up. We'll close the eyes, and for the next few minutes, we're going to guide our attention to those long, deep, fluid inhalations and guide them to those long, deep, fluid exhalations. Long, deep, fluid inhalations and long, deep, fluid exhalations. And if you need words to correspond with what we're doing, you can use the Buddha's instructions, which are breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. And breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. Breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. And breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. Continue on, focusing on your breath for the next 3 minutes. gently guide our attention back into the room,